Alright, so this is basically a tutorial on how to use HD sculpting. So we've just been doing the basic geometry sculpt, which for the most part works pretty well, and that's what I did this whole part here with. But if you want to get into like the nitty gritties and do some really cool details, you got to use that HD sculpt, okay? Or geometry HD. So what we're going to do is this. So I got this guy here, and what I want to do is that right now, what you may have already noticed is that if you go to your, you obviously you were in geometry and you divided it, right? But what ends up happening is that eventually you try to divide and it'll say you can no longer divide it, okay? Because basically what happens is it's somewhere around 10 is normally with the cutoff point. This is a 32-bit program. Actually, they just came out with 64-bit, but at the time of this, it's 32. So that's as much as like my RAM and this program can handle. Okay, so that's as high as I can go, which is pretty high, you know what I mean? And I can get a fair amount of detail, but it is somewhat disappointing. I would like to be able to, get like even, oops, hang on a second, let's go back. Where are you? Boom. Maybe get some smaller details, and you could probably, to a good portion, get mostly what you want, but you can definitely see that there's some faceting going on, right? I mean, that's not 100%. I can't get really good wrinkles or texture in there. Okay, so if I want to do better, such as like on the face here, I need to be able to go higher division. So the first thing you're going to want to do is that after you sculpt your guy or gal, what you're going to want to do is just find the division that shows the form, but it's not... you want to go as low as you can go while still maintaining what you have. Okay, so 5 still looks pretty good. 4 is right around. You can see I'm starting to lose some things. So I think 5 is roughly where I get to keep most of my stuff. Okay, I kind of did a little bit detailing on some areas that I shouldn't have. So that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete higher. The reason to do that, so I'm in recording mode. I was using layers. So first I got to do is just unhit bake all because I had it there. Otherwise, it won't let me do it. So I'm going to hit delete higher. Okay. The reason why is that it frees up RAM. So when you go to do the HD sculpt, I'll have more of it. There's no reason to have the higher ones. Okay. So once that's done, you can be on your highest level here. You're going to click on Divide HD, and you're going to see 2.44 million. Really not that impressive. It's kind of the same. Divide again. 9.77. That's where I was before. Let's divide again. And 39 million. Now you're going to look at it and be like, oh, it's not really doing anything. In order to activate it, what it actually does, it does sort of subdivide it, but to actually activate it and to actually see it, you actually have to go over here and hit A. And what that'll do is it'll subdivide based on the location of this, an area. So this is currently however much RAM, which is probably roughly about 10 million, it's now only showing 10 million. And you can see I can get much better sculpt, okay? So I would tell you the same thing as before. So I can even kind of take this down a little bit more, and you can see now, it's pretty good. But I can go even higher. So if I want to take the preview back off, I just hover over not there and hit A, and you'll see that it'll come back. It's going to take a second. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and divide it again. And now you can see 156, which is a lot. Now, the higher you go, you're going to notice that the smaller the preview area is going to be able to do. So now you can see it can only do this much. Okay? So just be aware of that. Okay. So we got it, subdivide. I'm just going to work on the face primarily here. And actually, for that matter, I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, see, he's not going to... make sure I got X symmetry on here. I do, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to more or less concern myself with this part of the head. So I'm going to kind of do, oops, okay, back up a little, friend. And I'm going to hit A right here, just so I get more of a preview of the head here. So, good. Yay. All right, so I got that going on there. So, first things first I could do is actually just do some sculpting and stuff, which, you could kind of do your typical... what you'd want to do in order to make it look kind of nicer. And I would kind of sculpt, do some crow's feet. My guy's not super young anymore. But you're going to know it's going to be harder to smooth things out when you do strokes. But I could go through all that, but you already know basically how to do that. It's the same general rules that we've done before. So what I'd rather do is, remember, smooth after each stroke, is actually talk more about some other options here. Okay, so If I want to get some like texture on this, if I go up to the options, one, I can use Spotlight, which we've already done before. I'm just going to do it real quick so you can see it. So I go to Texture, and what I did is I just download a picture of scales from Google, because that's what I do. So you just do import, let's see, textures, and there's scale. So it's a picture that I hit open. All right, I'll go back to that again, texture, and then I can see it here, right? So then I'm just gonna go ahead and I'll hit add to Spotlight, and I'll turn the Spotlight on, and then you can see it here. If I hit Z, it'll bring it up. Yours will probably already be up there, but Z will turn the manipulator on and off. So what I need to do is actually that's about right. So I can rotate it there. I'm gonna scale it up a little bit more. All right, and we'll move it over a little bit, and then I'll hit Z to bring that back off. And I'm just gonna make my draw size a little bit bigger. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna turn that back on. I'm gonna take my opacity. Where's the opacity? There it is. Bring it down a little bit so that I can see my guy. Almost a sculpt a little. Oops. Okay. Oops. Turn that back off. And then, that's kind of strong. So let's go ahead and take the intensity down a whole notch. All right. And I can kind of draw that in there. All right, and do a better job, but I'm just kind of showing you. Now if I hit Shift Z, that actually turned that off, and you can see that's pretty cool. That's the texture I wanted. That's pretty awesome, right? So that's cool. So you can bring in a bunch of textures and kind of do that, and just work your way around and keep painting it on, and then I'll Shift Z to bring it back up and kind of go up here, and then paint it on a little bit more. The whole thing. Okay, so you can kind of see. Do a better job than me, but something like that. Now the other thing you might want to do to do something a little more custom is you might want to, instead of using this texture here, let's just turn this back off. Give it a second. Super fast. Texture off. Is to maybe have like a brush or something that you can kind of draw on there. So I could use an alpha, right? And there's some ones that are in here. Some that are really good are like this alpha, whatever this one's called, 58. I should leave the draw size up. Yeah, that's about right. But I can kind of like scratch the surface, you know what I mean? And you get some really nice, especially if you kind of do it as a cut-in one, just some crisscrossing. I mean, that looks like kind of leathered skin, right? So it's really nice. That one works really good. And you can also go into Lightbox, and then you should find, if you go, so what's the alpha? Go to alphas. You should find more. There's all sorts of them, and they're really awesome. But if you wanted to make your own, make something a little more custom, which you may or may not, what you would have to do is actually go through and just in like Photoshop. I don't own Photoshop. I own Paint Shop Pro. It's not better than Photoshop. It's cheaper. So basically what you're gonna want to do is this. You're just gonna want to make a new image. So make a new image, and then make the image size divisible by 4. So generally speaking, what that means is you're going to want to whatever. You're gonna want to make it generally like 512 or 1024, something in that range. So this is 1024. Then what you want to do is actually go ahead and just paint, and it's got to be black and white. Okay, so I'll have black behind me. Whoops, that's why. So like a new raster layer. Thanks. Make black behind me. Okay, so let's say this is my pattern. Okay, it's crappy. I'm just doing it quick. Okay. Now the problem is that if you go to do this, as soon as you draw something over the edge like that, this isn't going to repeat nice. Okay. So what you want to do, and you can do, and it's the same effect in Photoshop. It's in a different place, but in here it's under image effects. So you go offset, and you want to make it halfway. So make it 512, and then you can see how that's not. And what it does is it pushes the picture over and down. And now when I go like this, I can put in stuff in between. And then if I would just go, basically reverse that, go 512, you can see now it'll be a repeating pattern. Like where this one ends is where it's starting here. See what I'm saying? So you want to make sure it's repeating by using the offset filter. It'll be in Photoshop as well, but it's just called something different. Okay, but black and white, a gradation therein, we're fine. So I just made this one. It's crappy. I just did it quick because I didn't care. And then I saved it. Just save as like a JPEG. I mean, it's not the greatest, but it should work. It seems sometimes you'll have issues with them not, if there's alpha channels in it, it gets kind of funky. Okay, so we got our guy here. So what I'm going to do is under my alpha, just do, import. And I'm going to find it, so I just called it splotches. And there it is. And then I can use a variety of different brushes. So for instance, I could do the drag dot and drag in. It's a little weak. Hang on a second. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Take the intensity up a touch. So, and I could just drag this in, and you can see I got that texture that I made, and it's right there. You know, some other ones, especially if you're doing something like this, that I really like is to do like spray. And then actually what I do with that is go to stroke, and I'll put lazy mouse on, and I will make the step a little bit more, and then you can see how it kind of takes longer to go around, and it's kind of gross looking. Okay, and that way I'm kind of just stamping it around, and it gives you a sort of cool texture. But you see how, you know, super high res like that. That's pretty cool looking, actually. I like that texture. And then what you're gonna do is, like, let's say you want to work over here. Well, then you'll just hit A over here twice, and then it will rebuild right there, and then you could just draw it again. It's still stored in memory. You can see how it kind of affected the geometry, but it's not, you know, it's not 100% there. But that's basically what you need to do. So what I want you to do for the next assignment, more or less, is just try to, you know, perfect the form, but then go through and add those textures. And then if you need to add extra geometry, like if he probably should have a top hat, put a top hat on them, right? Maybe a monocle, whatever you need to do. But that's basically what the assignment is. So go through, try to use the HD sculpt, and you know, have fun with it. But I mean, this is a real. I mean, look at that. That looks awesome. Like, it's a nice thing. All right, good luck. Man.